Welcome to the Midlife Pilot Podcast. We are glad you're with us. What is it like to become a pilot in your 40s and 50s? The challenges are unique for those of us in midlife, but so are the rewards. Hosts Ben, Brian, and Ted talk learning to fly, growing as pilots, and the joy of flying to destinations. The purpose of the podcast is not to teach, but to share knowledge and experiences of being a midlife pilot. Join the Midlife Pilot community and listen in every week. We are not CFIs or particularly intelligent, so if you want to learn how to fly, talk to anyone else other than the hosts of a podcast. Even this intro was too challenging for us, and we used a robot to do it. Okay, checklists are complete. Let's get the show started.
Hello, and welcome to episode 95 of the Midlife Pilot Podcast. We share our experiences and the challenges of flying in midlife. Whether you're a seasoned pilot, training for private or instrument ratings, or just thinking about getting started in aviation, we like to think of the podcast as your aviation companion and your weekly dose of aviation inspiration. My name is Ben. I am an instrument-rated pilot that holds a commercial certificate. I'm based in the metro Atlanta area flying a Cessna 182 we like to call the Beast. Joining me tonight, as always, excuse me, my friend, a private pilot in Nashville, which we say is the home of the Bachelorette Super Charlie, flying a Cherokee 180 named Lucy. I imagine the Bachelorette parties are in full force at this time of the year. How you doing, Brian?
Yeah, you know that I attend all of them. No, by the way, I was listening to Opposing Bases recently, and I heard somebody do listener feedback, and they referenced the Bachelorette Super Charlie, and I just thought, this is the first time in my life where I feel like I invented something, you know, and then it kind of stuck.
You coined a phrase.
A side note, I used to work, let's just say that in the corporate world, I worked with an executive that insisted that he invented the word stoked. So maybe this is my delusional moment of inventing something, but I feel like Bachelorette Super Charlie I invented. I'm just saying.
I would be more proud of inventing Bachelorette Super Charlie than I would be than inventing stoked, because that's just lame.
Well, I appreciate it, man. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be with everybody here this evening, and it's been a bit of a wild ride for a lot of people lately. So hopefully we can be a nice distraction.
Very, very true. Also joining us tonight from the left coast, the west coast, some say the best coast. He's a sport pilot. He's based in Portlandia, flying a flight design CTLS. We like to call it the Egg. Ted, how you doing tonight?
Hey, doing really good. Yeah. Having some late, pleasant fall weather. So I don't know what y'all are talking about, but yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, it's been pretty nice here in the Atlanta area starting yesterday, or day before yesterday. It's been a lot of the Southeast has been hit hard, as we all know, and we just wanted to go ahead and put it out there that all of us here do offer our thoughts and our hearts go out to those affected by Hurricane Helene. I know it's a tough time for a lot of people out there, so we're definitely thinking of you. Wanted to keep or go through our housekeeping stuff.
Sure.
We'd like to thank our listeners for making this the best pilot community we know of. It's a positive, encouraging, supportive place where we talk about everything from training, bad radio calls, sharing personal minimums, keeping each other accountable, the challenges of plane ownership, offering up feedback on flight plans, and just a bunch of stuff. Basically, it's a gold mine of experience and camaraderie, not just about flying, but growing as midlife pilots. So how can you access this amazing community? You can support us on Patreon for as little as $1 a month. And for those math wizards out there, that's about 25 cents per episode. So when you join us on Patreon, you can get a link to our Discord server and just join in with the fun. Also, you'll get access to miles of bonus content and It includes check ride debriefs, which I get a lot out of. There's stories, challenging flight experiences, and a lot of other things. Also, I think it's important that you know that 10% of the proceeds that we get from Patreon does go to Freedom Aviation Network, who works with volunteer pilots to provide safe, efficient, and rapid air transportation for survivors of human trafficking and their advocates. So there's a lot to it. You can also engage with us via supporting us on YouTube at our YouTube channel. And then you can also send us feedback. YouTube channel, Patreon, feedback is all linked at our website at midlifepilotpodcast.com. And so that's how you can get a hold of us. We've got some events coming up soon. Brian, why don't you tell us a little about that?
We have some events?
Yeah.
We have an event. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking in our sheet here. What are we?
It's above the housekeeping. It's about an
who's
event
in
that we
charge
have
here?
at
What
the
is
end of the
going
month.
on?
You know, I called an audible. I know you're supposed to do housekeeping, but I thought I'd change it up a little bit.
So you thought you would skip the whole thing that you were supposed to do and then do the thing that I'm supposed to do?
Well, so it's not like that at all.
It seems exactly like that.
The housekeeping is very lengthy, and I know you like to talk a lot during the normal podcast. So I thought I'd let you save your breath.
Okay.
And, you know, I'll take the heavy lifting here for a minute and let you do the easy stuff like the events.
I appreciate
and
it.
the
This is quick. This is 3 lines. Events and announcements from Ben. by Ben.
By Ben.
We will be broadcasting our 100th episode on Monday, October 28th. We'll be broadcasting live from 4 Golf 7 Fairmont Airport in Fairmont, West Virginia, the legendary Midlife pilot Chris Moran's base camp, highly featured on YouTube in his run of great videos. So anyway, we're super excited about that. It's going to be quite a production and quite a scene. And I guess we have, I think the way this is working is it's not really like a fly-in or anything because we're not really able to handle that. But if people want to show up, you're allowed to. It's a public airport and we'll be shooting everything and recording everything there. And I guess you can just RSVP. You just email midlifepilotpodcast@gmail.com. Is that right, Ted?
Yeah. You can send an email. We'll probably talk about it before the episode, but
there are hotels that are right there by the field if people want to come and hang out or whatever. We just can't really call it. Like, I don't know. We're just doing this thing, and then whoever shows up, it's great.
Yeah.
But we're excited. Ultimately, 100 episodes is a big deal. And, you know, I appreciate Ben being so excited about it that he's just going ahead and charging down the entire show outline. He's ready to get there.
Well, again, I'm a giver. Y'all all know, everybody in the chat that knows me knows that I'm a giver. You've been burdened a lot lately. I'm just trying to relieve you of some of that burden.
Ben's trying to do the quantity so you can do the quality.
Oh.
Good save, Ted. Thank you very much.
This feels like a scam.
Hey, with no great transition, let's talk about our Patreon supporters this week.
Yeah.
We've got 2 new supporters. So I want to say thanks to Andrew L. and Thomas M., both coming in at the Hershey bar level, which we love. So thanks for supporting. Thanks for joining us. If you're a supporter, make sure to hang out, join us in the Discord. There's lots of chat, lots of community going on, lots of things going on. I wrote some notes about things that have come up this week. So I'm going to run through that. Charlie Golf Sierra has 3 club planes, including a DA-40 and a 182. And they said, it was so nice doing a pre-flight and running my hand over the leading edges and not feeling like I had to disinfect my hand afterward due to the amount of bugs and crap on there. Loved that. Talk about going new places, if that is liked or terrible or anxiety provoking.
Oh, yeah.
Zeb talked about his emergency debrief and looking for feedback on how I mishandled my electrical failure on my flight home. It was a good chat. Adam R. has half a plane. The entire plane is assembled, but he only owns half. My friend Cheapskate has a new club with a long hanger and a Piper Warrior with VGs on it. I think that's kind of cool. talk about progressive inspections, talk about our tethered aerostats from last week, and over the horizon radar, which super nerdy. Got somebody else joined us who's in the RV gang, the Vans RV gang, and congrats Mountain Rat Matt for passing your written for your private.
I have a question. Yeah. Does the Warrior have a Hershey bar wing or is it a tapered wing?
Depends. So, no, I guess all Warriors would be, no. It depends on whether it's a 160 or a 161. Is that right?
Well,
so I think they could have either.
If you put VGs on a Hershey bar wing, I mean, are you really accomplishing anything?
I mean, you probably will never be able to stall the plane times 3.
Yeah.
I
guess maybe.
Is this an aviation show? Because I'm not sure. I don't know.
We are just emphasizing that we are not experts at anything, including planes that we fly.
Especially.
It's also pretty evident, right? We say it a lot, but it's also pretty evident. But yeah. So Ben, now, do you want to introduce our non-topic?
Our non-topic today is, we've discussed how these end of the month episodes, these information whiskey episodes, there's sometimes they don't do so well, but some of our best episodes ever by virtue of listenership have been information whiskeys. So it's kind of a mixed bag. Yeah. So we're just here to hanger talk, I guess, is what the point is tonight. Had an experience over the weekend that I was going to share. I know Ted had a really big experience, a great flying experience over the weekend. I thought we'd hit.
Yeah.
And we'll get into some also. We have some long, good though feedback and some other stuff that people need to make sure that they hear. Right.
Definitely. Yeah. I wanted to touch on, we've got for everybody that's listening to this and not watching, we broadcast Monday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern, and we've got a very active chat. And one of our listeners, Barely a Pilot, says, I think Ben's hat needs to be added to the merch store. I want one. And I think we need to address that first and foremost as a person who owns many hats.
Those are the ones we can't get anymore. Yeah.
We can't get anymore, right? Yeah.
No.
We need to find another merchant, I think, and get these back up there. What do y'all think?
I don't know if we'll be able to get the same one again.
No, but, here's my thing about hats. And I'm very particular about my hats because I have a lot to protect.
Oh, yeah.
As you can see.
Yes.
The distressed look, where it's not too puffy up on the front, where it stands straight up. It needs to look like when you buy it that you've been wearing it for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really my only requirement. Trucker style is nice. It doesn't have to be trucker style. So
sure.
So to answer your question, Barely a Pilot, we will look into that and get that situation resolved as soon as possible.
Yeah. Merch store is still open, and but there hasn't been a hat in there for a while. So we should probably get a couple, try them out, see what you like, Ben. Yeah, go from there.
I will definitely be looking into that.
Yeah.
But again, we're here to jibber jabber, to just hang out for a bit. I wanted to share an experience. I haven't told either of you about this. It was a Sunday morning, and, I've gotten to the point in my pilot journey where 2 years ago, I would not have hesitated to go get in the airplane and go fly. But I'm kind of I'm fighting the urge to say, I'll go another time and just kind of blow it off. It was marginal VFR all over North Georgia. And I'm like, you know what? I need to get some instrument proficiency. And it was literally at 11 o'clock in the morning, and by 11:15, I was in my truck driving to the airport. And I don't normally do that.
Don't normally? You mean that late?
Well, just making a spur of the moment decision to just up and go.
I see.
And I looked at the weather. I found 2 other airports that were IFR or marginal VFR, looked at the approach plates, felt reasonably comfortable that those approaches would be, you can count on without having to have a safety pilot or wear goggles, that the ceilings were below inside the final approach fix. I don't know why I couldn't come up with that word. And I hopped in the truck and I went there. And I got to tell you, I think it's been my favorite instrument flight that I've done, instrument proficiency flight that I've done yet. Y'all have both flown with me. I'm very comfortable in my airplane, as you well know. But this one was something different about it. I was so dialed in. The winds were 7 knots, a little bit of a crosswind, maybe 30-degree offset at the 2 different airports. But, not heavy, very manageable. But I was so dialed in for all of these approaches. I was fairly dialed in with my radio work. I nailed my PTACs. But what I was really happiest about was my speeds, my power settings were on point the entire flight. I don't know. It's just one of those where everything clicked together really, really well.
Flow state.
It really, I haven't had a flight like that in a really long time. I think as midlife pilots, we really like to try to go through and find what we did bad. And I want to say critique ourselves, but be critical of ourselves. And I think there's a little difference there, that we're kind of beating ourselves up, and maybe unjustifiably. Mm-hmm. This is one of those few flights where I felt like, okay, everything is just dialed in spot on. And of course I was by myself, and it's only going to happen when I'm by myself. I don't have anybody else to impress or do, you know what I mean? Just, you don't have to perform when nobody else is in the airplane. And it was so therapeutic for me to be able to get up there and do that.
So was it just really jarring to you when you woke up and realized that?
No, pretty sure it wasn't a dream, but now that you say it.
Okay, but here's the thing. Can you still log it?
Well, Ted, it's in my logbook, so
there you go. Yeah,
it happened. No, I have ADSB data to prove all this. So,
yeah,
I don't know. It was just, it felt different to me for some reason.
Do you think that your impulse to go was also just, it felt good because you've probably been keeping an eye on things anyway, but I'm just saying, there's sometimes when I've gone to just, okay, let's go right now. And sometimes that feels better than others, the quicker decision to go on really any flight. But I have found that the more experience I have, that kind of, I don't know, the more it doesn't really matter so much. I mean, be prepared, do all the things. I'm not saying rush. I'm just saying,
no.
There's like the thing where you're flying tomorrow, and then there's the things where you find out you're flying tomorrow.
I feel like when I do the spur of the moment things with adequate preparation, it's hard for me to stick to the exact plan that I came up with on the spot. And I probably could have done this 20 different ways. I went from RYY to Calhoun, 20, 30 miles, Calhoun to Dalton, another 20 miles, and then Dalton back to McCollum. I didn't overthink it. I didn't spend a lot of time. Well, maybe I should go to Dalton first and then come down here. And normally I would have done that. And this time I just said, this is what I'm going to do, and send it.
Yeah.
And it worked great. And I don't know. That's my problem personally is that I'll come up with a plan, and I seem to abandon that plan fairly quickly. And this one I stuck with it, and it worked out well.
You mean like reading the show topic?
How do you know that wasn't my plan to do that to begin with?
No,
I just didn't share it with you.
There is the overthinking and the pressure that you had planned this in advance and that kind of stuff. There's also just some days are good, right? It's like sometimes you get in the plane, you're kind of fumbling along, and some days you get it, you're like, all right, this is great. Like, it's just working today. And
I think that was a big part of it, Ted.
Yeah.
I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. Just some days you're hitting the ball down the middle of the fairway, and sometimes you're slicing it everywhere. I don't know. That's probably a reference that's lost on you too, but I thought I would throw it out there anyway.
It's a football reference. I get it.
Okay. Was it George Carlin that said, "I don't understand this game where you hit this, you take a stick and you hit this ball as far as you can, and you can't even see it anymore, right? Then you go and you look for it, you find it, and as soon as you find it, what do? You hit it again."
Yeah. Yeah.
And by the way, I did a thing. I filmed it this last flight.
Ooh, look at that.
Oh, cool.
So there may be a video.
You filmed the good flight?
I did.
Oh, maybe that's it. Maybe you're kind of, it's like a, I don't know, a way to watch yourself, police yourself a little bit.
I do what we all preach. I turned on the camera and forgot about it.
Yeah. But it's
and
there,
again,
is what I'm saying.
When I say things are spot on, it was my speeds and my altitudes were dialed in perfectly. I was flying the needles better than I ever have. I was never more than a fraction off of, a dot. I don't know, man. It just,
That's awesome.
things came together.
That's great.
And it felt, when I got back on the ground and got the plane put up, I sat in the truck and I was like, man, I need to do that more.
Yeah. And then you realized that you ran over the chocks on the way out. Right on the next one, it'll be like
hanging off the side of the plane. I'm not sure why that happened or where that came from, and half the wing was leaning down.
There's like
a good fight.
Yeah, there's like a Marshall hanging off of one of your struts.
I do want to hear the logistics of your week, though. You went flying, Tuesday?
I did. So I had a business trip, and I have a new manager. I've known her for a long time. We've been reps together, and she got promoted to the manager justifiably. She's perfect for the role. And she'd not been in a small airplane ever. And she was pretty excited about flying back down there. And I was looking at the forecast. I knew the weather was coming up from the south. And I said, we're going to have a narrow window to get back. I'm down there to go meet with people. And if those meetings run long, we could be driving back. And she's like, I'm totally cool with that. That's fine. Let's just make this, let's just send it and see what happens. And what was funny is she lives close to Peachtree DeKalb Airport. And on Tuesday, I guess everybody was just getting the heck out of Dodge, but they parked me. There was like 3 Falcon Tri-Jets, 2 Gulfstreams, and then 82 was parked like right in the middle of all of those. And I'm walking out with her, and she's in awe of all these big jets.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, no, there I am. And it's like, wah, wah, wah. No, but she was really cool about it. We fly down there, and of course, the meetings run long. And I had to rent a Mitsubishi Mirage. I think the wheels on that car are like 8 inches tall. And the noise, there's no soundproofing whatsoever. And it was a 5-hour drive in pretty heavy rain to get back. And what was really cool, Brian, you've met our friend Larry.
Yeah.
Who gave me a ride in the L39. He also owns a Malibu, which has been converted to a jet prop. So it's got a PT6 in there.
Outrageous.
Pratt & Whitney PT6. And when I was in Savannah, he called and he said, hey, I've got hangar space for you if you need to put your plane up during the storms. I said, well, actually, I'm in Savannah and I'm going to be driving back. He said, no worries. I'll give you a ride down there over the weekend. So
you got another L39 ride?
Nope. This was in the Malibu.
Okay.
This is the jet prop Malibu.
So you had to slum it in a jet prop Malibu.
So what's funny, the laugh, and I did invite Alpha Juliet with us. So of course he came along, and he rode back with him in the front seat. So it's funny, Larry had to take the L39 in for an annual in Alabama, and I offered to pick him up, bring him back while it was an annual. So now I don't want to say he's returning the favor, because every time he returns the favor, it's so much nicer than when I did a favor for him. It's just not necessarily on par, but it was really cool to get some stick time in a big engine like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So AJ was in the back and you were in the co-pilot seat?
That's right. AJ was in the back. And so I get there, and Terry and I had plans for the afternoon, so I needed to start heading back. And they wanted to go pick up some shrimp because, it's right there on the coast. There's a lot of seafood markets there. And so they went into town and bought a couple of pounds of shrimp to bring back to cook that night. And I figured I was on a good 45-minute head start, if not more than that. But sure enough, I thought I got switched over to McCollum Tower thinking, yeah, I'm going to beat them home. And sure enough, I hear them on frequency. They're checking in. They were the second. They landed 3 minutes behind me. It was crazy. So
yeah. So
after they'd gone through that, but yeah, that was a really cool experience, and like to thank my friend Larry for helping me out there.
Yeah, Larry's great. He gave Ben a ride up to fetch his plane after the alternator failure.
Yep.
In the L-39, and yeah, good.
So, and I love Larry, but it is the worst call sign of any airplane that I've ever heard. It is 7777 Foxtrot.
Is it 4 sevens or 3 sevens?
4
sevens. Yeah.
7777 Foxtrot. Imagine trying to do that. So anyway,
I love it.
It is unique. So, but anyway, it was a great time. So that was my recent flying experience.
Yeah.
Like I said, it doesn't happen often, but it's really gratifying when it does happen, when you have a really good flight like that.
That's good stuff. You had a big week.
And I would encourage our listeners, tell us about a time when if you're in training for private or instrument or commercial, whatever, tell us about an experience that you've had where just everything clicked, where it just felt right. You got on the ground and you really kind of wanted to high five yourself. Speaking of high fiving yourself, Ted, you went for a little bit of a...
Yeah. I was hoping, I was kind of blocking out the weekend for my partner to take her second flight in the plane and hoping the weather was going to be good. We booked on our calendars a couple of weeks ago, and sure enough, the weather's been really good. And I had a cold this last week and got over it. I spent too much time chainsawing trees, I think, but got over my cold. And so went flying yesterday and went up to Sunday. Went up to San Juan Island, up northwest of Seattle. It's actually only about 10 miles from Victoria, BC. I realized how close we were to the border. Yeah, Orcas Island is the next one up, and all the whales tend to be there. So yeah, we flew up with a really annoying headwind, like 15 knot headwind, and some clouds in the way, but a good flight up. Walked in to town. It's such a nice little town. It's great that you can walk there and get some really good food and, just do the whole experience. And it was her first time going to the San Juans, which, as somebody who is from the Northwest and lived in Seattle, it's kind of a place that you go to occasionally. But it's so great that I can get there in 2 hours from Portland instead of 6 hours of driving, 2 hours of waiting, and an hour on the ferry. So it's really fun just to be able to go just for lunch with that. So yeah, Ben knows because she's got an Instagram account and she was posting pictures of the scenery up there. So she had a good time. She read 120 pages in her book in the flight and still helped me look for planes and see the scenery. So
wow,
great flight. Yeah. Yeah.
When they're reading, you're there. That's a happy passenger. That's all I care about.
Yeah.
If they're sleeping,
exactly.
They're happy passengers. That's all I care about.
Yes. Yeah. I
if
totally
they're
agree.
wrenching their hands and twiddling their thumbs and gritting their teeth, that's maybe time to be a little concerned.
My landing up there I thought was terrible. I went back and reviewed it. It wasn't that bad, but the wind, everybody coming in, you watch them coming in on this final, and they just do this stair step as they're coming in because the winds are just so intermittent. And so it's coming in, it's like you drop 10 feet and pause, drop 10 feet, it's this whole thing. But came in and, really just floated down the runway for a while and then kind of like bounced and landed. And it just felt really terrible. But going back and looking at it, it's like, it wasn't terrible. So It's nice when you do that and no parts fall off. So that was a good sign. Yeah. My headset has been falling apart though, so I've kind of made an involuntary Delta Zulu purchase, and thankfully they're in town, so it's literally coming overnight. But I was a little worried there's gonna. I'm sure they will. It's the original Zulu, so it's a 10, 15-year-old headset. And but the whole controller box of it is kind of shot. And it's like, I may as well just trade it in and upgrade.
I see.
But I was hoping that it was going to, stay together for the trip, which it did. So yeah. So it was a fun trip. So we do have some feedback. Do you have a summary of, I think that's from Cowboy Pilot? Is that who it was from?
It was Cowboy Pilot. He listens to our show. He's obviously a Patreon listener. He wrote in, and we had RH on. It was about the name of the episode was "Reading the Room" with RH, and we like to ask. I say we, meaning Brian likes to ask whenever he gets the controller on the podcast to ask them what's the correct order of asking for flight following. And of course, she asked RH that, which is great because we had somebody listening who was paying attention, and he gave us credit for it. Although opposing bases is and RH are the true heroes in the story.
Yeah. So he wrote in.
He
and
wrote
told us
in
about this and said basically, I have made an excellent flight following call because I listened to this episode that we get to take credit for, even though RH was the one that
100% correct.
Okay. This is perfect. This is exactly how we should do this.
Probably never, ever happen again. So we need to celebrate the victories while we can. Okay. But this person got a very nice compliment from air traffic control. So that's what we'll hear in the clip.
Yeah. So it's kind of a case of ATC stolen valor, but we'll take it. Here's the clip.
Yes.
Kansas City departure, Archer 955 Kilo with request. Calling for flight following, go ahead. 552 Kilo is about 8 miles east of Leaf Summit. Would like flight following to Jeff City, Julia Echo Foxtrot. We're a P28 and we are at 5,500.
November 52 Kilo, reset transponder, squawk 4711.
Squawk 52 Kilo.
November 52 Kilo, radar contact 7 miles east southeast of Leaf Summit Airport. Maintain VFR, altimeter 2013.
52 Kilo.
And November 52, I have to give you some feedback. When you call it for flight following, your cadence is perfect for the information, and you gave us the exact order we need to put it in our keyboard, so thank you for that.
Thank the Midlife Pilot podcast for that. 52 Kilo.
I love that.
Yeah. RH and AG are probably boiling mad right now, but listen, they did it right. We're going to take credit for it.
We don't want to become what center controllers are to them.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I think that they're happy to have the gospel spread. And
That's right.
Juliet Echo Foxtrot, our friend, Jeff Juliet Echo Foxtrot is like, what's going on here? Because he was headed to JEF, the airport. So nice and confusing here. Yeah.
So, all right. So what was the order again? Do you remember?
Well, thanks to Mr. Ballard, that would be call sign, location, destination, type, and altitude.
Boom.
And Ben has it as well on the lanyard.
I have it on the OB. Where are you? Where are you going? What are you flying? What's your altitude? So these were the jokes. They made these lanyards with these like ID badges, but they were a lot bigger. So we had a lot of fun. We call it the sled. Because it's so big, you can use it for a sled.
Yeah, it's supposed to be, the size of a credit card or an ID badge. And instead it's like, double size.
Who's
like
the rapper that wears the big clocks with the chain?
Yeah.
Flavor Flav.
Yes.
Flavor Flav. That's what it kind of felt like. So
it's sort of like the opposite of the Spinal Tap Stonehenge problem.
Yeah.
So,
could be one.
So now listen, I have a tendency to put PA28 at the end of my flight following requests, and maybe that's not good, but I'm also introducing myself as a Cherokee. Yeah. And I believe I've heard someone say before that oftentimes they forget. It's actually not terrible to bookend it with your type or reference to your type in some way, but ultimately, yes, that format that you showed on the sled is the way. And I still can't believe that anybody that listens to this podcast thought to thank us at ATC, or like I can see mentioning something that went terribly wrong.
Yes.
As being attributed to us.
I mean, that
in
would
some
make
way.
more sense.
Yes.
I will say though, it's, I've been told it almost doesn't matter what type of airplane is. I've heard it is the spinning thing on front or is it on top?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's almost all they really care about. Now, if
They
you're
know
a
how fast
jet
you're
or
going.
turboprop, that's different. But if you're a piston single engine, that's, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Well, so
my nice confusing plane that nobody knows and have to repeat the type over the radio every time. I don't worry about getting the order right. I just hope that I can communicate clearly on my calls to them. So yeah.
Don't you have a backup that you associate yourself to that is normal? Like
I usually just call myself a light sport, which used to be approved terminology, and it's like at least that's gets you into approximately the size of plane and delays that conversation of flight design and Foxtrot Delta Charlie Tango type.
Yeah.
So, which is always annoying. Yeah. But we've got another flight plotting clip to play.
Yeah, can I set it up?
Yes.
Okay. So this idiot that we're about to show, and I love that Ben has no idea what's going on right now. It's not you. Don't worry. Don't worry. It's not you. If we're gonna call you out for being an idiot, we're gonna tell you first that we're gonna do that.
Yeah.
Where's the fun in that?
So I mentioned this. I alluded to this last week or week before when I was talking about my recent trip out to West Texas, and one of the things that happened to me on the way back, doing 1,000 miles in a day. Now there is fatigue. And that is a factor, and that is something you have to monitor and be careful about. And it sneaks up on you maybe a little bit. But also just when you are flying in unfamiliar territory and you are making lots of stops, right? You're flying for a long time, stopping, getting fuel, hopping in the FBO for a minute, turning around, whatever, coming right back out and getting back in the plane and going. And especially out in Texas, the broader part of Texas, everything kind of starts to be a little, similar. And anyway, what happened was I had departed Marfa at just the break of dawn and had been flying all day and was going to be flying all day till sunset to get back to Nashville. And somewhere in the middle of this, I think it was when I was leaving Greenville, Texas, which is just east of DFW, and then going from there to Memphis. So, I had probably flown 20-something hours in the last 3 days. I'd been in all these places, all these airports that I'm not used to being at. And that is my pre-excuse for the absolute straight garbage, human garbage you are about to hear. But I think it's important that we not just ask for your bag of words when you, listener, completely botch a radio call or make yourself look like a total idiot. I think it's also important for us to bring those to the table. And I found one in the recording on this trip, in one of those moments where I was partially really glad that I was recording it because I knew that'd be funny to me later, but also horrified to hear the actuality of what I did. But let's just say, I don't know, I had a little trouble with this flight follow-on call.
Yeah, here we go.
Someone with a VFR request, is that?
Cherokee November 5116 Lima, just off of, what is this airport? It is Golf Victor Tango is where I just left. My destination is November, Quebec, Alpha. Currently 4,100, climbing 9,500, PA28.
November 5116 Lima, squawk 2317.
231716 Lima.
I love that. It's like just trying to get the brain in gear, just get going. But I totally recognize that because it's like you filled up your brain to get to the airport. You leave the airport. You're like, this information is done. I don't need it anymore. I'm focused on where I'm going. And then you get on the radio. You're like, wait, where
I'm really
am I?
focused on where I'm going.
Yeah.
Where am I going?
Where was I from? Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to set the record straight. I think you handle radios maybe smoother than anybody I know.
Yeah.
Always.
Wow.
It brings me great joy to hear you actually show that you are a human, as we all are, and you are definitely pushing the push to think button. You did not have that grease that in your head.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great example for everybody before you call up to remember which airport you were at, because I saw you scrambling on your iPad.
I was like, where
Where was I? And I do think fatigue does play into that. And that's not an excuse. That's when you've been at 6 airports in 3 days, you know what I mean? They kind of start to run together. So I enjoyed that immensely. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm so glad.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I was even laughing to myself in the middle of the call because it was so ridiculous. I just thought, I can't believe that I'm doing this right now. So
Yeah.
How busy was she?
not terribly.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't. I wasn't hanging a bunch of stuff up, but I kind of, you want people to laugh back at you, or at least openly pity you in some way.
Yeah.
And she was all business, which I totally get it. But it was just, every time I fly, every time I hear somebody struggling on the radio, and you can't help, the more experience you get, especially, but you hear somebody struggling on the radio and you go, God, you empathetically feel it for them because you've been there. Everybody's been there. Especially with the students, you want to just be like, "Hey, man, no, that was fine. You were good."
Yeah.
Yeah. In that case, that was just one of those where I've just been. There's a point with trips like that it's weird. I kind of like this feeling, but also don't like this feeling, which is that when you're just turning and burning one place to the next, to the next, to the next, and you're flying 2 and 3 hour legs at a time, 3.5 hours, and you're just landing, turning it around, and getting back in and going. There's a part of it where the plane starts to feel a little bit like your car.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It starts to feel more like you're just getting in to go do stuff. And that is the stuff of your guard coming down. That is the stuff of fatigue rising. And, not necessarily you want to be comfortable, but you don't want to be complacent. So,
well, and you never got to a place, right? You didn't really go to that airport. You happened to land there, but you weren't really there. You were just en route. And so it's not like this was your destination or it registered at all with you.
Yeah. Also because a lot of these towns, it's like, wait, am I in Greenville, South Carolina, Greenville, Texas, Greenville, North Carolina, Greenville, Ohio
State, probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there wasn't really anything distinct in my head.
You're like, I'm in Texas. Yeah.
And then also what was happening, that was the other thing, is that the airports were, so San Angelo is Mathis, Greenville is Majors, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that was the other thing that I was short-circuiting on in my head was I knew it was a one-syllable word that started with an M, but the last two places I'd been had weird one-word M names, and that was the sort of sod that cultivated my confusion, I think, ultimately. But it's fine, man. It's one of those things where you just go, well, they're just, everybody's
You're never going to talk to them ever again. It's not.
No, everybody's going to have to deal with me until we get this done, and I'm doing it.
Exactly.
So here we are, guys, and either you can enjoy the ride or not. But I don't care how long it takes.
You're
it done.
here either way. Yeah.
Eric Grizzly in our chat commented, anyone else get a sarcastic good job over the radio after their bag of words?
Oh
man. Yeah.
No,
I have stumbled over a few instrument, we call them PTACs, which is the position, turn, altitude, clearance radio call. And they were so bad that there were pilots that came on and going, it's okay, buddy, we've been there. Something to that effect, that it was just, there were like marbles in my mouth by the end of it. So yes, Aero Grizzly, I definitely feel that pain.
Yeah.
So we've got a couple of feedbacks that we wanted to get to tonight. Brian, do you want to maybe take the first one?
Well, first, Ben, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to read something. So thank you.
You can say no. I'll read it for you.
No, I got. Are we doing the
Chris
The first one?
Oh, I was.
the longer one?
Or no, Ted, which one? No, the second
let's do
one.
the second one and finish the topic here of Texas. Yeah.
So this is the one from Chris.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So feedback from Chris M, based out of Delta Whiskey Hotel, or I don't know. Maybe he doesn't know where he's based from. I didn't know. Message. Okay. He says, I'm a 50-year-old retired Air Force navigator and have been flying civilian since 2018, earning my commercial certificate and multi-engine rating this summer. That's awesome. I just started listening to your show this summer on recommendation from the guys at Opposing Bases. Thank you, Opposing Bases. And I'm enjoying it and have recommended it to another midlife friend who has just started working on his private certificate. I noticed on your last 2 episodes that you mentioned flying in West Texas and specifically Marfa. I'm on the opposite side of the state, but have flown in the Big Bend area once with a friend who lives out there. And what most people don't realize is that Marfa was named after our first president's wife, Marfa Washington.
You know, it's only about 50% that is true, that it could be true, right? It's like, it's not 0, but yeah.
That is a trip. But no, that's so cool. I would love to. I've never talked to someone who was a navigator in the Air Force. I think that'd be a neat conversation.
Or a flight engineer. Like, those would be some cool people to talk to.
Yeah. So, but anyway, thanks for that, Chris. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Ted, do you want to get the second feedback?
Yeah, I will. So Delta Foxtrot, one of our Patreon supporters, wrote in about last week's episode. That was episode 94, $100 hamburger. Things to do besides 100. I can't remember what the title was. But here's what he says. He says, "Greeting fellow aviators. The Midlife Pilot podcast has become a weekly favorite. It makes me think of what it would be like to sit in a hangar and have an informal roundtable discussion with friends who are training to fly in midlife, or later in my case, I'm 64. The topics and feedback from other listeners have been encouraging in that my experiences, concerns, and shortcomings are common among the community of midlife pilots. I'd like to add some feedback on episode 94, Beyond the $100 Hamburger. The ideas were excellent, and I'd like to add my experience and suggestions from the past few years. My work includes travel for weeks to months in various parts of the U.S. When I travel to a city, I research the flight schools and contact the owner to see about renting an airplane to fly in a new area and airspace. I have always found the flight schools to be welcoming, more evidence of the friendliness of the aviation community. Renting as a visiting pilot always includes a checkout with an instructor, which adds to the experience and learning. Some of the Beyond $100 Hamburger trips I've been able to make include, number 1, Henderson, Nevada to Grand Canyon West, landing at 1 Golf 4, which was a lesson in density altitude, flying over Lake Mead, and doing turns around a point using Hoover Dam as the point. And he sent a photo of that one. We'll share it on the Discord, and we'll pop it up right now. It's a beautiful picture of Hoover Dam. Second one is Spring, Texas to Galveston Island, with the Houston flight chart splitting 2 Bravos while the Astros were playing at the Juice Box, and ATC cleared me to transit the TFR. Being cleared over TFR is an experience. Third, grass field training at Red Stewart Airport in Southern Ohio on a grass-only airstrip with beautiful vintage airplanes. His final one is night flights over the Ohio River and downtown Cincinnati, Ohio. So I encourage other midlife pilots to travel to new places they would not necessarily fly to from their home airport for an amazing Beyond $100 Hamburger flight. You will experience new airspace, a variety of interesting instructors, and make many new friends. Thanks for all you do for the aviation community. Patreon Delta Foxtrot, from Charlie Alpha Kilo. Yeah.
Awesome.
Before I bought my plane and I was experimenting and renting some, I got that experience quite a bit. And that was a really cool experience to, broaden your horizons, to fly in DC and Phoenix and, some of these places. And yeah, it's a good reminder of things you can do is just go rent a plane, and it comes with an instructor. That's great. Yeah.
Oh, to tie it together a little bit, Ben, you're talking about your proficiency flight. I just picked a place, set it up. I didn't overthink my plan other than just, safety planning, weather planning, whatever,
Right.
but in terms of just where I want to go. And you did it, and you had a great experience. And then I think it's interesting, the conversations that are happening in the community where there are definitely people that understandably take the side of, I get nervous when I go to a new place. So I'm hesitant. I tend to stick to places that I know, all that. That is a very good thing to listen to and to go with, because I think that that's directly tied to your experience level and the confidence that you have because of your experience. And just the more time you have and the more experience you have, the less daunting those things will be naturally without you feeling like you've got to break some barrier to do it. And so I'm all for, go find new places. And I even saw somebody in the community say exactly what I think, right? Where it's like, a lot of times I'll just slightly go off course and go to hit a spot because I haven't seen it. Even if I'm just doing a touch and go, I just want to see what it's like from the ground and then get going and all that. And
I think those are great points on the experience levels.
It's a tough balance.
If you're
you should listen to hesitation, right?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Well, what I'm trying to say is, if you just got your private pilot certificate, then go somewhere that's new, but the airspace is not complicated. It's a single runway. The winds are in, relatively down the run. Make it a little simpler instead of maybe just after you get your private pilot certificate to land at Hartsfield International Airport. There's varying degrees. As you build up that experience, to your point, Brian, you'll be more comfortable in going further and also going into more complex airspace.
Well, there's a lot of people that, like Chris C., he trained at a Delta. He feels more comfortable going at a Deltas. For him to go to a non-tower field is actually another layer of stress to go to somewhere new, right? So it just depends.
I agree with that, but that's also just another way for you to expand your experiences.
No, of course.
It's a different version of complexity as well, right? Complex doesn't necessarily mean you're going into a Bravo. It's also you're going to a field that doesn't have weather on the field.
100%.
You're sitting there flying over, just looking for that windsock, just staring for it, and then replanning your entrance because you're over the top of the airport now. You thought you were going to this runway, you're going to the other one. And what are you going to do about the traffic? These kinds of things that aren't just like simple in the textbook. So complex is lots of different things.
It could be terrain. The runway could be in a valley. There's a lot of, I don't mean just in airspace, and I'm glad you called that out. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
For a newer pilot, though, you could go to one that's out in the middle of the field, Centerville, Alabama, our friend Crazy Mike, Bearded Aviator. There's nothing out there. And again, taking baby steps to build your experience.
Well, Michael Gillette said earlier that he pumped his own fuel for the first time, and that's an experience that people have, is being at a field where your only experience is that they pump it for you, or vice versa, right? Like, it's really weird if you've always done it yourself to wait for a fuel truck to show up. Being from a state that had that you couldn't pump your own gas. I remember the experience as a teenager where it was like people who'd never pumped their own car gas and were scared to do it and afraid to do it, that kind of thing. It just reminded me of that same experience.
Right.
So
let's wrap it up. We want to hear from our audience. A couple of different things. Number one, tell us about a flight that went really well for you. Or it could have been a proficiency flight. It could have been your cross-country solo and it went exactly as planned. We haven't asked for this in a while, but we'd love to get some reviews of the podcast. We would really love it if they were 5 stars.
Yeah.
And please send us feedback. Email us. join our chat in the Discord server. Anything, we just want to engage with you. So I think that does it for episode, what is this, 95? Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
It's been a long Monday. Listen, we appreciate everybody listening. We love our audience who joined us tonight. We're glad that you joined us. Join us next Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time and get in on the fun. So wrapping up episode 95 of the Midlife Pilot Podcast. Good night, everybody.